Right, let's get started. Now, this afternoon, a full-scale investigation is underway into an incident captured in a viral video which shows extreme violence being meted out in a dormitory at Adisadel College in Cape Coast. Now, the housemaster of Kwaku House and the students involved in the violence, as well as those who watched, and another one who filmed it, are all under investigation. There are conflicting bits of information coming in about the incident and the actions taken so far, but we will get all of this straightened up for you this afternoon. Now, we're going to show you the video of the incident. It contains violence, which some viewers may find disturbing, so discretion is advised. This disturbing video shows a student being attacked from the back, being put in an elbow lock, and then his head is hit on a bunk bed by another student. It causes an immediate swelling on his right cheek, and you can see blood oozing out. Observe. All right, now before we show you that, let's very quickly go through the statement, which has been released by the Ghana Education Service on this matter. It's a very short one. We can read it for you in full. It says management is concerned about the recent spate of disciplinary issues in our institutions, and as a matter of urgency wishes to direct each school to appoint a dean of discipline. This is dated the 30th of May 2023, so this is an issue that the Ghana Education Service was seeking to tackle from earlier this year. You are hereby directed to inform all heads of schools to appoint deans of discipline through elections and submit the list of all appointed to the Director General by Friday the 9th of June 2023. Throughout the Secretariat, email is provided, dgsecretariat@ges.gov.gh. Please find attached the job description of a Dean of Discipline for your attention and necessary action. This must be treated with urgency. It's signed by the Director General, Dr. Eric Nkansa, and copies go out to the Minister of Education and many others. Now, there is another statement more recent and more relevant to what is happening in Adisadel today. But we also have the video of the actual incident, which, like we explained earlier, it comes with a warning, viewer discretion is advised. Before that, though, let's very quickly read the statement that came out following this incident at Adisadel College. It is dated the 24th of July, and it says, viral video of violence involving students of Adisadel College. The attention of the management of the Ghana Education Service has been drawn to a disturbing video of assault involving two students of Adisadel College being circulated on social media. Management is deeply concerned and condemns this barbaric act of violence in our schools. We applaud the school authorities for taking swift action to suspend the culprit pending further investigation. Management has directed the Regional Director of Education to liaise with the school authorities and the relevant law enforcement agency to investigate for appropriate action. Ghana Education Service assures the general public that we are taking this matter very seriously and are committed to ensuring a safe and secure learning environment for all students across the country. And this is signed Cassandra Chumampofu, who is the head of public relations at the Ghana Education Service. All right, now we do have the video of the incident which occurred. We'll bring you that shortly. But the report coming through from the headmaster via the PTA chairman suggests that the culprit and the one who took the video will also be dealt with. But first, let's have a quick look at what happened. We will be bringing you further details of the unfolding investigation. But let me share something with you. A victim-facing disciplinary committee. The incident happened on the 30th of June 2023. The boys decided to hide it until the video came out. Even the victim himself The reason why the victim too is being punished. The two of them are sending one, the culprit, home. He will not write the exams here on campus. He has to go to WAEC Center to do so. Two, the victim is also going home, but he will have to come and write the exams with parental escort. I believe these are details from a report that is purported to be coming from the head of Adisadel College. It continues. 3, the one who did the video and sent it viral will be suspended externally for 1 week. He will come back and do internal work for 1 week and bring the phone, else he will also be sanctioned. 4, the others who were there but did nothing, didn't report, will all do internal punishments. 5, the housemaster and his CO will be suspended immediately pending the outcome of this video by the GES. The minority, well, and these are the details from a report that purports to come from the head of Adisadel College. If you bear with us, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, even more stories right here on The Pulse. You're welcome back. This is The Pulse, and we are paying close attention to incidents unfolding at Adisadel College. This afternoon, some investigations are underway, both in Accra and in Cape Coast, into the matter of some violence captured on video and going viral between 2 students of Adisadel College. It occurred in Kwaku House on campus. Let's start with Semefa Rejoice Kwesu, who is in Cape Coast right now. Semefa, you have been in Adisadel School today, Adisadel College today. Tell us what you've picked up. Okay, we will be reconnecting with Semefa. But in the meantime, we can also bring you a conversation with Edmund Foley. Now, he's a lawyer. He's an expert in criminal law. Let's see if there are criminal aspects to this conversation. Mr. Foley, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Good afternoon to you.
Great pleasure to connect with you again, and rather unfortunate to discuss issues of bullying going way back to, our school days, and which sadly have continued till now.
Indeed. Now, you and I were in the same secondary school round about the same time. And this was not strange, to see this kind of violence being meted out against students, especially by older or bigger students. Now, let's talk through the criminal aspect of this. What we saw was, it looked like an assault on this young man. But we will bow to your superior knowledge on this one. Talk us through the legal implications of what we see in this video.
Right. No, thank you. On the substance of it, and you can see if investigations go, and with what we are seeing in those videos, there is some evidence of causing harm. Section 69, I believe, of our Criminal Offences Act would deal with causing harm, which essentially is to inflict some bodily pain, injury of sorts on another person with intent that that person suffers that harm being caused. Now, causing harm is quite a serious offense on our statute books. You could also look at it from the context of an assault and battery, for that matter, criminal assault and battery within Ghana's Criminal Offences Act. Since they are students, on the procedural side of things, assuming that they are under 18 or below 21, then that would require that they are taken through the juvenile justice process, which doesn't necessarily put children or young persons who have committed offenses, the law refers to them as juveniles. The contemporary description of such persons would be, of course, children in conflict with the law. They would then go through the juvenile justice system of Ghana, where the trial or the whole judicial process would involve the participation of a social worker as well, given that you are dealing with persons in a formative stage of life.
Now, there's a lot of conversation on social media about, well, who's to blame? And you hear people blaming the parents of the, the perpetrators. You hear people blaming the teachers for having lax supervision of the students and so forth. But let's talk about legal liability here. I mean, there's a duty of care, no doubt, but walk us through it. Right. Assuming that this were to become a legal matter, where would the blame, on whose doorstep would the blame be placed?
Right. From the criminal side first, then definitely you are looking at the young boy who is seen attacking the other students. So it's a question of personal legal liability when it comes to the criminal side. The one who was seen attacking his colleague would be the one held responsible directly for that act. Then you could also look at it from a civil law angle or the civil procedure. Now, just for quick public education, when you talk of a crime is a wrong against the whole of society. So all of us as Ghanaians have agreed to a certain set of rules to guide our conduct. But civil matters are usually wrong between two individuals or matters that govern two individuals. Okay, so the boy involved, the victim, let's call him that, could also bring civil action against the other child. But being children, of course, then they would have to sue through what we call a next friend, possibly their parents who would bring such an action. The parents, so this would be a civil action for even assault as well, right. Assault and battery, right. Where they could get some damages for what has happened. But then at the level of the school, the parents also considering a contractual relationship of sorts, a fiduciary relationship between the school that I brought my child to a school and I expect the child to be protected, could also bring an action against the school. But that would really look at the failure of the school to protect the child, that responsibility in that contractual relationship. So that could be another point to look at when it comes to possible legal interventions.
Right. I want to bring in Amanda Akwoko Clinton. Amanda is the head of chambers at the Law Office of Clinton Consultancy. She's a human rights lawyer as well. And a little bird tells me she also once upon a time was a student in a well-known secondary school in Cape Coast. Amanda, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
Right now, troubling events coming out of Adisadel College. But let's be fair, these are not new, are they?
No, they're not. But I think, as the Ghana Education Service has recently said, Adisadel is handling this extremely well. From the most recent article I read on it, I think they've expelled 2 of the boys involved. The third one that was filmed, they've expelled, and the third one that was filmed has been suspended. And those who were viewing the incident but not, getting involved in terms of stopping it, will face disciplinary action. And I think the housemaster and the deputy have been relieved temporarily of their position. So I think the response is very good. But if it hadn't gone viral, perhaps the response might not have been the same. And I think the indictment on the students who committed this, it again goes to show it's a lot about culture in terms of this sort of group enterprise. And they become one in terms of, just the momentum and the adrenaline that's running for this sort of group enterprise as they're committing this criminal act. But the indictment on them, I think, is quite considerable, because apart from what my learned colleague just said, about the criminal offence and where this could potentially go, the social indictment that the whole thing has backfired on them in terms of they're being judged at every level. And they might be stigmatized, particularly because they were in a very good school in Cape Coast. You know, I went to Cape Coast school as well. So, you know, it's pretty hard to get into these schools. And how are you going to go to the next school at a first tier level, if at all? And how are you going to explain away this incident where your face is everywhere and, you know, your parents have to explain that? So apart from the criminal element, I do think the societal element of dealing with this is important. And the fact that because of social media, they've been exposed in terms of you can't exactly say, I wasn't there, I wasn't doing this. So I think it's very good that, you know, social media can be constructed in such a way as to publicly shame them in a way, because, you know, they'll have to explain for those acts. And I think we can't get away from the issue of bullying. Also involves a group mentality, group enterprise. They were in it together. They were running on adrenaline. And hopefully this can be a signal for Ghana Education Service, as well as, you know, schools throughout the country, to introduce some sort of policy, as well as, you know, to just stop the mentality and address that, I think.
Right. Now, I spoke to the Ghana Education Service head of public relations this morning on radio, on the Super Morning Show. She explained to us that, in fact, to date, the Ghana Education Service has not had a unified code of conduct which would cover how teachers and students are to handle bullying. That is yet to be done. It's something that is going through their processes and will be approved by their council at some point soon. But it doesn't exist. So every school has their own code of conduct. Now, you've praised Adisadel College for their management of the situation. But how would you assess the college in their efforts to have avoided such incidents, bearing in mind how popular and common we know some of these these occurrences are in secondary schools across the country?
Well, I mean, I hope this is an isolated incident to start off with. And I think occurrences like this also show that it's like a virus, you know, when one bad seed, one bad egg, you know, sort of puts a bad light on a very good institution. And you cannot perhaps, you can guard against that in terms of setting up a protocol that you follow from Ghana Education Service, as well as internal school protocol. But I think it would be highly unfair to say that this was an Adisadel problem. It is it's these sort of things. It's like a bad virus. You know, you've just got to expunge it. You've just got to deal with it on a mentality level. And you've just got to make sure that although you are inviting students who have extremely high grades, that they are fully aware of where this could lead in terms of the reprimand, and that it could affect the rest of the student's life. But I think this is an isolated incident. And I think, you know, each Ghana Educational Service working on a policy document would show their commitment to ensure a safe and secure learning environment for all students. And this is very necessary to have a policy document to be rolled out to all schools so that they just have a basic guideline.
Amanda, before I bring Edmund back in, because you're a human rights lawyer, I want to ask you this. There are parents who are watching us right now who might have been considering sending their children to Adisadel College or any other of the well-known boarding schools across the country. They are watching this now and they're wondering, so if I take my child to a school, should there not be more protections in place to ensure that my child is not victimized by those who are bigger and stronger than him or her? Is there nothing that ought to be immediately done to protect the human rights of young children that we're sending into, you know, these boarding school situations?
I think you can't guard against risk that might just come about, except for having a strong policy document that's perhaps rolled out nationally, and having schools that ensure that the students know that there's a zero tolerance policy for any form of bullying, because although this was a physical assault, I think sometimes the worst kind of assaults is someone being bullied psychologically, etc. So this is a key moment for Ghana Education Service to roll out a very good policy document on how to safeguard, children throughout the country. But also, it's a good teaching moment, I think, for all schools, be it in Cape Coast or otherwise, to just show, without restraint, that they have a zero tolerance policy. And as someone who spent, I spent 2 years at Wegehe at Wesley Girls, before I went to Lincoln. And so I benefited very much from a Cape Coast school, and it really taught a lot in terms of just enduring, so to speak. So having been in Cape Coast, I was put there because it was the best. And I learned a lot, so some of these things teach you a lot of things in life, and how to report if you are being bullied, and how to be in a safe environment where you're in schools with a zero tolerance policy for bullying, etc. And if you do commit to a bullying act, then you would face the wrath of that policy, I think.
I'd love for you both to stay with us, Edmund and Amanda, but very quickly, let's touch base with Semefa, who is in Cape Coast. She's been to Adisadel College, spent a lot of time there this morning, and has the latest. Now, Semefa, why don't you walk us through what you learned when you spent time at Adisadel College earlier today?
Right, Kojo. So when I arrived in the morning, I was there till midday. The school, everything was calm. Academic work was ongoing, but the headmaster wouldn't speak on the issue because, according to him, the National Office of the GES has taken over the issue and further investigations are underway. So he wouldn't want to blow things up. But I spoke with the regional PRO of GES earlier, and contrary to other reports that the culprit has been dismissed, she said the committee that was put in place to establish the root cause of the issue and also come up with the findings came with a recommendation. She didn't speak on the findings because they've instructed the headmaster of the school to write a situational report to the office. They are yet to receive that, so she's not privy to that information. But she gave me the recommendation that came from the committee that they've suspended the culprit and then the victim, as well as the person who took the video, who are all final year students. So the culprit will be at home and will take the WASI examination at the WAYEC office, WAYEC 4 in Accra. And then the victim will also be in the house, but take the examination under parental escort. So these were the development as at the time that I was there. But the instruction from the director of GES was that the headmaster, the parents of the students, and the students themselves should come to Accra, the office of the GES, and meet with the Board of Governors for further investigation. So the outcome of that particular meeting will determine whether the students should be dismissed or not. But as at now, we can't establish that they were dismissed or they are on suspension.
Right. Well, thanks for that update, Semefa Rejoice Kwesu, who's our reporter. She's been covering this matter in the Central Region since it broke yesterday. Now, I want to wrap with you, Edmund, wrap up with you very quickly on this. I mean, you've pointed to where all the, criminal and legal responsibilities would lie. But I wonder about those who were observing this harm being caused, this assault, occurring. I wonder about them. Are they criminally liable?
There is definitely a responsibility under our Criminal Offences Act that when one sees a crime, being committed, and I would think that a crime now involving such bodily harm, they would have taken steps to intervene. But then it comes again to the whole point about education. And I have been advocating over and over again. Yes, not everyone needs to go to law school, but as Ghanaians, we just need a certain modicum of legal knowledge and understanding when issues arise and we need to intervene or take action as ordinary citizens. A part of me at some point in my life also, I've worked on child law issues. And for GES, I am with Amanda 100% about the working out a good policy document on this and the interventions, even for, yes, those children who stood by and were watching what was happening. But more importantly, to emphasize that since we took away corporal punishment, as a country, we really need a very good discussion and understanding of how we discipline. I mean, the whole positive discipline concept. This morning, I heard on many of the stations people who were commenting on this expressing concern that discipline proven that. Let us go back to the discipline for that matter. Thank you very much.
I want to thank you, Edmund Foley, for spending some time with us on this all-important matter. We're thoroughly educated. Amanda Clinton, of course, has also shared very interesting perspectives, and we appreciate you for that. All right. Now,
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
All right. Now, let's speak to Divine Prayer. Now, he's an education specialist with Africa Education Watch. He joins us right now. Divine, thanks for making the time. Now, I'm interested in what we've heard so far from the Ghana Education Service. No unified code of conduct. Every school has its own code of conduct. But in terms of what to do about bullying, the only instruction the Ghana Education Service had for us was that if a child is bullied, they should report it. Now, in your experience, how effective is it for a child who is being bullied to report it to the authorities? Does that make them safer or make them even more of a target? Divine, I hope you're with us.
Hello, Kojo.
Yes,
Sorry,
hi.
I cannot hear you.
Yes, I see you were busy typing away there. Let me ask that question again. Thank you so much for making the time.
Yes.
I was asking about what we learned from the Ghana Education Service today. First of all, they informed us there is not yet a unified code of conduct for schools, which would have dealt with how bullying is to be handled. There's no such thing. They are still working on it. But what they did point us to was that the standing instruction is that if you are being bullied, report it. Now, I'm wondering how effective that is in your experience. When a student is being bullied and they report it, does that make them safer or does that make them more of a target?
All right, thank you, Kojo, and good afternoon to your viewers, and also good afternoon to the co-panelists. The reality is that we have still not gotten to the point of addressing issues of violence in our schools in general, not just bullying, but when we talk of physical violence, psychological violence, and sexual violence, we have still not gotten a solution. And we are doing little, not just at the secondary school level, even at the basic education level. It's a whole issue. And so in 2018, one of the interventions that the Ministry of Education through the Ghana Education Service wanted to do was to introduce what they call the Safe School program to address these issues of violence and bullying in our school. So yes, indeed, we don't have a policy in place to address it, but there's a program that was launched in 2018 to help us address it, having realized that over the years, the effect of bullying and other forms of violence on the students' academic performance and then their entire enrollment and continuation in school. However, the challenge remains the effective implementation of that particular Safe School program. In fact, since 2018, a good number of teachers do not even know of the existence of a program like that. Students that the program also targets do not know about it existing. If the students were to know about a program like that, you have known that one leg of the program is to empower them to report when they are being bullied. And not just that, the bystanders will also have known that they have a role to play in addressing bullying by trying to intervene or report. But you'd have realized that the child did not report, and then the bystanders also, they were virtually doing nothing. They were videoing and some were running commentary. But look at the program, it is to empower the bystanders also to step in. It is also to empower the victim to report.
How are we empowering them? In what ways are we empowering the victims to report? How are we doing that?
Okay, the program is supposed to run educational programs as part of the activities lineup. Teachers, first of course, were to have their capacity developed through in-service programs to be able to identify victims, possible students that could be victim to issues of abuse, and then also how to handle, supposed to establish clear communication line on reporting, and then also supposed to have the student program targeting students like talk shows to be able to, for them to understand their role or what they need to do when they are being victimized. So those are some of the ways of the empowerment. And not just that, you have seen that even you come in?
Sorry, I was going to ask, I mean, but why are we asking victims of bullying to report it? Does that work? When a victim reports to their teacher or their, housemaster that they've been bullied, does that not make them even more of a target for bullies?
Not at all. When we want to approach it like that, then it means that we are asking them to keep quiet, and the more they keep quiet, that's how it will fester and become a whole lot of issues in the school.
But is there not a better way of having them report, maybe with anonymity? Is there not a way of making the reporting process safer for them so that they don't suffer repercussions?
Of course. That is part of the program. Look at the program. It is not that you go and then your identity is obviously. And the same thing applies to the bystanders. If you are to report, your identity is also supposed to be protected. And it's supposed to be one of the works that the guardians and counseling coordinators in the school are supposed to be doing. But of course, we all know that they are burdened because beside their work as counselors in the school, they have to teach one or two subjects.
Why do they have to
teach? But I'm glad that...
Why do they have to teach? They are guidance and counseling officers. Why are they teaching?
Yes, but unfortunately, they have been assigned a subject to teach in the schools. But
my question is why? Why? Who has assigned them
as a challenge?
My question is why, Divine? Who has assigned them teaching jobs? Why? Why have we done this?
Of course, their employer has assigned them the teaching job. So you go to our senior high school, we have guardians and counseling coordinators, but they are not there just as that is not their primary function. They have other subjects that they have to teach as well. But I was coming in quickly that the ministry has identified that as a challenge, asking guardians and counselors to teach. So right now, the ministry is working to develop a policy on guardians and counseling provision from the basic school all through to the senior high school. Just last week, I understand that tertiary will also be included in the policy. And in that policy, their work will be decoupled, whereby they will not be assigned teaching job. They will focus on the provision of the guardians and counseling services in our school.
But Divine, originally, their mandate is not to teach. Why do we need a policy to ensure that a person who has been employed as a guidance and counseling officer, why do we need a policy to ensure that they are not given a different job? Why don't they just do the job they were hired to do? Should there not rather be a policy to ensure that the GES... should there not rather be a policy to ensure that the GES sanctions any head who gives, unnecessary duties to a guidance and counseling officer?
Well, I agree with you that our counselors need not to engage in subject teaching in the school. school, but that has been the practice over the years. Very unfortunate. That is a gap that has been identified. And what I'm glad about is that steps are being taken to rectify the anomaly. It has run over the years, and that's not the best practice. Their work involves a lot. So for me, I believe they should have just focused on their duty as counselors in the school, but they have been burdened with other duty. But again, as I mentioned, I'm just glad that we have identified that as a gap and steps are being taken to rectify that. But I also agree with you that we don't even need to wait till the policy is matured before we begin to decouple their work from teaching, so that they can focus on this, and then they'll be able to take care of issues of violence in school, like I mentioned, not just physical violence, but also issues of sexual and psychological violence. Because of course they are so much high in our schools. Data shows that 1 out of every 3 students in every 2 months experience any form of violence, either from a student to a student or from a teacher to student. It's really an issue that we need to address. And I strongly believe the counselor has roles to play, and therefore we need not to burden them in their schools.
Now, Amanda, let's revisit the human rights issues here. These are kids, but the video showing this violent act has now gone viral. Are there some human rights concerns from that development?
I mean, I think the human rights concern is quite evident in terms of, his right as a human being was violated because he was touched without his permission. He was assaulted, and he was further assaulted when that video went viral, and he didn't want to be seen as that. And this sort of group mentality, it's like a gang mentality. Those watching, those videoing, those participating in the crime was just, I think it really was a damning effect, particularly because it went viral. But it's also about changing the culture, because as Ghana Education Service rolls out this policy document, because, I've worked in the policy department before, it's not just about rolling out the policy documents, it's about implementing it. So how are you going to implement it? Are you going to target schools? For instance, the GES can target schools where occurrences like this have happened. So they send extra posters. So as soon as you go to the school, on a main board, there is a massive sign. There is a stand, like a poster stand at a key place. It ingrains in the student's mind with pictures. These are the things that can happen if you spend your time trying to bully someone. We have a zero tolerance policy. You can be expelled. The rest of your life will be affected. I mean, something quite dramatic. So the GES, in rolling out that policy document, would also have to back it up, I think, with what is the paraphernalia in terms of the posters and the stands you're going to send out, particularly to key schools who have been known as schools with a lot of bullying, particularly, boarding schools, and to just deal with culture. Because once you change the culture of an institution and the culture of what people are to expect, should they commit the crime?
Amanda, forgive me for cutting in. Forgive me, Amanda. There is some news just coming in, so please just hold on to that thought, because we will continue to hear what you were saying. But there is some news just coming in from the presidency. President Akufo-Addo has made a new ministerial appointment to the position of Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources. Let me read the statement, which is signed by Eugene Ahin and dated today, 25th of July. The President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has appointed the Minister of State at the Presidency and Member of Parliament for Tano North, Frida Prempe, as the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources. She takes over from Cecilia Abna Dapa, whose letter of resignation, dated Saturday, 22nd July 2023, was accepted by the President on Saturday, 22nd July 2023. President Akufo-Addo, in consultation with the Ministers for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration and Roads and Highways, respectively, has also appointed the Deputy Minister for Roads and Highways and Member of Parliament for Efija Sechere East, Mavis Nkansa-Buedu, as Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, and Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration and Member of Parliament for Tatale Sanguli, Thomas Mbomba, has been appointed as Deputy Minister for Roads and Highways. These appointments take effect immediately, and of course, we will bring you more details as they unfold. All right, let's get back to our story. We were in conversation with Amanda Clinton, Divine Kwe, and Edmond Foley, who has managed to get a bit more time to spend with us, so we'll be hearing more from him. Now, Amanda, you were making a point. Forgive me for the interruption, but these things happen. You were making a point.
Yes, that, in the Ghana Education Service rolled out a policy document to address bullying and the culture of bullying and how to stop that. I think the key point for them to focus on perhaps is a zero tolerance for bullying and how that is going to look like. And I also think that it's not just about a policy document that's written, but you've got to have pictures, sort of like, as I said, if they roll out the policy document, it has to be backed up with posters and stands, etc. And if GES can't afford to obviously roll that out to every secondary school, particularly boarding schools in the country, then you send them PDF versions, and the schools that are particularly encouraged to make sure their students know this can put up those stands and can put up those posters. But changing culture is about changing perspective. It's about introducing positive behavior within the school setting and just restoring discipline in a way that is actually going to affect changing the culture and in a way that's going to benefit the student, because as you've said, parents send their kids to school, particularly boarding schools, to be in a safe environment, free from assault. And so whatever the GES can do to support this beyond a policy document in terms of posters and etc., it would be helpful. And perhaps, schools being encouraged that since they have a morning devotion and, morning meetings, most mornings, that at least once every 2 months, their talking points can be about, the zero tolerance for violence and for psychological abuse, as well as sexual violence within their institution.
Now, James, thanks so much for making a little bit more time for us. Now, you will not believe the number of text messages I got from parents, particularly fathers, who wanted to know if a son or daughter of theirs were to have suffered the kind of attack that we saw depicted in this video, if they were to retaliate by going to that school and dishing out some violence of their own at the perpetrators, would they face criminal consequences?
Yes, definitely. I mean, the answer to the problem at hand is not to mete out more violence, but to also, complement what Amanda said about policy and intervention and all of that. It's also to recognize that as we do it, we have to admit our numbers have ballooned. We need to somehow manage our schools, bearing in mind that the kind of facilities we have, the numbers we are dealing with. I'm a former board chair of one of our senior high schools in Ghana, and I can identify what my brother from EduWatch is saying about guidance and counseling teachers having to go to the classroom. It's a whole cocktail of difficulties we have with our SHS system. And even at the junior level, we have not even touched the sexual violence issues that both Amanda and my brother have talked about. Yes. So the answer is not more violence, but also to appreciate that as we have to do it, we must be mindful of the kind of stress that the teachers are dealing with. And for me also, the stress that the children are dealing with. As we are talking about this, on our own school groups where we went, somebody is talking about a senior back in the day who cut his thighs with a blade. And we never knew this. He's just sharing this, that I've lived all these years with a trauma. And interestingly, he just said, perhaps this guy was under stress. So even the children themselves, the kind of school system we have now, this track system, we've loaded them with so much academic content. Perhaps we might have to look at how these children are coping psychologically with the load on them and how they are taking it out on each other with such violence. It's something really for us to look at. So definitely more violence is not the answer from a parent. I can understand. My own child has suffered bullying before, and I just placed myself in the shoes of that father. I was irate, but I had to also work with the rules that the school had provided.
Yeah. And I think you raise a very important point about mental health here. And this strain that we're putting on the guidance and counseling officers is just unconscionable. It's something that we absolutely have to attack. Now, why don't we find out the latest? My colleague James Abeji is actually at the Ghana Education Service. He's been monitoring the development of this story. James, tell us what has emerged in the past few hours.
As we speak, the children, the students, as well as their parents or guardians have arrived here at the Ghana Education Service, as Semefa has indicated earlier. And so before we came here, one of the students have arrived earlier, the one we saw in the video, allegedly perpetrating the act, was here with a family member. They were already here, and then we were told that the rest of the team are on their way to the Ghana Education Service premises. In about 10 minutes, they also arrived. The school bus of Adisadel actually arrived with some other 2 vehicles. Now, when I made a head count, 5 more students came with the school bus. In addition to the student that was here earlier, would give you 6 students from the school who are dressed in their school uniforms, together with some other adults that I would want to believe would be the head teacher as well as parents of the other school. Now, among these 6 persons are the one seen in the video perpetrating the act, the one who is the victim, as well as the one that took the video actually, and then the rest, we are told, are actually witnesses to the incident. And so that's the number of students who are here. What is unclear is whether the house master who has been suspended is also part of the team. We do not know or cannot confirm that. And so we know that they are here. And what is currently ongoing, we are picking, is that there is currently a meeting happening between the authorities of the Ghana Education Service as well as the Deputy Minister of Education. That meeting is currently ongoing, but the students are still in the bus. What we know is that they would be ushered in to continue that meeting after the meeting between the GES authority as well as the Deputy Minister for Education is concluded. And so that is what is happening now. The substantive meeting has not started yet with the students as we speak. Kojo.
Do we have any idea which officials of the Ghana Education Service that these people will be meeting with?
Okay, so we are not very clear about that. All we hear from the morning, and some of us had indicated, is a blank statement that authorities from the national level of the Ghana Education Service who went to the school are actually the ones coming back to Accra. And so it is unclear whether the DG of the Ghana Education Service himself will be part of that meeting, or the Deputy DG will be chairing that. But what we know is that the Deputy Minister of Education is the one holding the meeting with the GES authority as we speak. And so it's unclear which specific or particular authorities from the GES would be steering that meeting.
James, I want to thank you for your time. Obviously, you'll keep an eye on that for us, and we'll learn more as it happens. Also, big thanks to Amanda Clinton, as well as Edmund Foley and Divine Kwe. Very informative and educational conversation. We appreciate your time very much. This is The Pulse, and there is more to come. We certainly have to look at the home bank saga, as it's being called. Millions, at least $1 million and a million CDs and much more stolen, allegedly, from the home of a former minister. And the fallout is huge. More after these.